Morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Ed Jerkovic with the Pulte Institute for Global Development here at the Keough School of Global Affairs at the University of Notre Dame. I'm here today with our next guest for our Faculty Fellow Spotlight. Our guest today is Jessica McManus Warnell. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks so much, Ed. Great to be here.
Thank you. It's great to have you with us. And we're going to start right away now with some questions for Jessica that are going to discuss her personal career, her personal interests, and especially her connection to global development work and the work that we do here at the Pulte Institute. So let's begin. Jessica, first, can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure, thanks, Ed. So I'm Jessica. I am officially in the Department of Management and Organization over at our Mendoza College of Business. I teach primarily business ethics, sustainability, resilience, women in business. And through this work, I've had the good fortune to connect with the Pulte Institute, so I'm a proud fellow. Also privileged to be a fellow of our Notre Dame Blue Institute for Asia and Asian Studies, and an affiliated faculty member of Gender Studies, Sustainability minor, and Poverty Studies on campus.
So Jessica, we'd love to hear as well a bit about what interests you and inspires you. So can you tell us, what are the readings that inspire you or have influenced you and your work?
Great, thanks. So, because we teach business ethics, there's all sorts of material in the news every day. So one of my tasks, I think, is to ensure that I am scanning what's going on in the world. There's never a shortage of news in business, particularly here in the wake of the pandemic. And so combining readings on theoretical perspectives on decision-making and moral reasoning with a sense of real world application. One of the classes I'm really excited about, I taught over winter session, was on the topic of community resilience and recovery in the wake of natural and man-made disasters. We focused our case study in this project now on the Fukushima triple disaster. Today actually happens to be the 10-year anniversary of this event, of the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear disaster. It's a compelling case study in how communities respond economically and socially. And of course, we know, these instances of natural disasters are only continuing to increase as we see the impacts of climate change. So it's relevant, I think, nationally as well as globally. One of the readings that has really been helpful to me recently is a work by Daniel Aldrich, who's at Northeastern in Boston. And he writes about how traditionally when we look at communities and how they respond to some of these challenges, he's looked at recovery after Katrina, overseas, certainly again in Fukushima. Oftentimes the focus is on infrastructure recovery, but the data suggests that we need to focus just as much on community rebuilding, psychological impacts, social impacts, education for the children. And so that's been really inspiring work for me.
Thank you. Here at the Pulte Institute, our fellows are often people with a large amount of international experience. And the two next questions get a bit at that. So our first question here is, do you know any other languages? And if so, could you say a phrase in that language and let us know what it means?
Okay, I'll try. Well, the first one is un poco de español, right? So a little tiny bit of Spanish. And the more difficult one for me has been Japanese. So I can tell you, Nihongo ga skoshi dake wakarimasu, which basically means I speak a very tiny bit of Japanese. And I have had the fortune of sitting in even on campus with our wonderful Japanese language program coordinator and professor, Noriko Hanabusa. And I quickly realized the students were moving along and they're learning much faster than I was. So now I do it remotely.
What is the most amazing place on earth, in your opinion?
Yeah, this is such a hard question because, boy, every day it seems that we have new ideas. One of the few silver linings in this global pandemic has been the interconnectedness we've all found electronically and things like this. And so just the chance to think about all the places that we've been and all the places that we want to go next. But I have to stick with the Japan theme and say that my first experience there, I was there for 6 months, and I had the chance to hop on a beautiful high-speed train, Shinkansen, that took us about an hour and a half away from one of the largest metropolises in the world, Tokyo, to an area called Hakone, where there's lakes and mountains and streams and beautiful art installation along the side of a mountain. In Japan, it just has a really wonderful way of juxtaposing really exciting new technology and bustling cities with really traditional appreciation for beauty and history.
Great. Keeping on the theme of inspiration here, what is your favorite quote and why?
One that I read recently, kind of an oldie but a goodie, but it's James Baldwin. It's from The Fire Next Time, and he writes, "This is your home, my friend. Do not be driven from it. Great men and women do not have done great things here and will again, and we can make America what America must become." And I really like that because, of course, here in our own country and around the world, there have been all sorts of discussions about what it means to be a citizen and where we belong and where we can find ourselves. And I like this idea of all of us having a place to call home, but also acknowledging we all have work to do to make these homes as good and as welcoming and as just as they can be.
What inspires you the most? What inspires you in the things that you do in your work?
Our campus is an amazing place. Like, most higher ed institutions, the beauty of it is we bring people together from all over the world. I recently wrote a piece, maybe I'll mention in a bit, about this idea of the role of universities. And, I particularly was thinking about business schools, but universities broadly in doing the work that needs to be done in the world. So I am inspired all the time. We're always bringing in exciting guests. We have faculty members doing field work all over the world. We have students, study abroad, community-based research projects, and all of those things inspire me. So it's hard to choose just one. Close to home, I have 2 sons, a high school freshman and a senior in college freshman, a freshman in college, and they're perfect daily evidence of the promise and potential that our young people have, and what I think is, an exciting future ahead. They seem to have a sensibility, just like my students on campus, of the importance of the work that needs to be done to make our world better. So I feel like I'm in a really good place to be inspired daily.
So how did you first get involved in global development work?
Well, it was so exciting when the Keough School was announced at Notre Dame, and even as that was budding, there was the Pulte Institute for Global Development in the works, and I had the good fortune to work with a couple of your colleagues, so Michael Swiker and Melissa Paulson. I know that this work continues, and it's exciting to see it develop. So we did some work around case study writing and developing a way to try to find a compelling way to tell some of the stories of the practitioner partners around the world, business people engaged in development work and strategic partnerships with NGOs and others. So we did some early case writing together, right alongside students, undergraduate students, also with some support from a partner who is the former chief ethics officer for the United Nations. So we had some practitioner input as well, and it was a really exciting project. We wrote 6 cases together, and now I understand the Keough School has a dedicated case writing initiative in the works. I have the good fortune to be on the editorial board, and really I think we use teaching cases as an excellent way to put some heart and some shape and some meaning around really important issues, and allow the either the practitioner or the students using them to really engage in an interesting way. So I'm excited about what's next for this partnership.
Keeping on that same theme, what work or research have you done that you feel most passionate about?
Well, through the work at Fukushima, I had the good fortune. I've been going to Japan every year, but last year in 2019, I guess 2 years ago now, I traveled with a group of three colleagues, two other colleagues from Notre Dame, and we started in Tokyo, but we spent a significant amount of time in Fukushima itself. So we visited some of the villages that were directly affected by the disaster, and nothing compares to community-based research and teaching. I can read as many case studies as I want, but being there and talking to people who were affected, frankly, the stories of recovery and resilience, just this week, of course, because it's the 10-year anniversary, there's been a lot of coverage in the Western media about what's going on in that part of the world. And frankly, a lot of it is kind of sensational and focusing on all the horror stories of abandoned villages. But I'll tell you, one of the things that we saw repeatedly was this, spirit of human recovery and young entrepreneurs coming into communities trying to help rebuild by opening, restaurants or places for people to stay, or, teachers rebuilding the schools. We have a young alum from Notre Dame who took his first teaching assignment after graduating in a village that was directly impacted by the disaster. As he's been working there now for 3 years, doing such good work. So that's been something that really is staying front of mind for me. One of the tasks I think about now is how can we translate some of the lessons from this experience to recovery from other disasters like what's going on right now with the pandemic.
Thank you. And again, it's a wonderful example, I think, for a lot of our students. Speaking of which, what advice would you give to students who want to make a difference in the world?
Yeah, that's great. And I think about what I tell my own sons. But particularly for our students at Notre Dame, start now. You're in this place that you're completely surrounded by people who have energy and passion and connections and networks and ideas. Who, I've never met a faculty member who is not interested in engaging with students and really trying to push their work forward and, help equip them with the tools to go out into their professional lives and do this good work. So start now. Go to lectures, visit with your professors outside of class, ask about research opportunities that spark your interest, take classes in experiential learning. So start now. That's my advice.
Final question. Where can we learn more about your work and your recent publications?
So we have a great site at Mendoza where we have faculty profiles in all of our publications and courses taught and presentations made. So that's a nice space. I'm also active on LinkedIn. And then I would refer to that article I mentioned. So the AACSB is the global accreditation body for business schools. And the piece I wrote was called An Ethical Reset. And it just talks about how, we're at this pivot point where we've seen kind of the best of what humans can be and do. And we've seen some of the fault lines, the disproportionate impacts the pandemic has had on some populations. So the article's about that and about how I'm arguing, universities are uniquely positioned to contribute through the classes they teach and the way they equip future leaders, through the research that we do, and through the power of convening. So, bringing diverse groups of stakeholders together to talk about these ideas and to think of innovative and interesting solutions together with, a broad array of voices at the table, just like the work that you're doing at the Pulte Institute every day.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for spending some time with us. We're excited to be able to share your experiences and your insights with our networks and our followers around the world. Thank you again.
Thanks, Ed. All the best.